Confidential. With me today, I have Kristin Anderson. Thank you so much for joining us. And you might notice that we have a different background for the next few podcasts. We are filming from the NCRA Convention. So we're excited to have some guests we wouldn't ordinarily have in California. So we're going to take advantage of this. And thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes. So. Well, you're stuck with me for an hour,
Yes.
so I hope we have a good time.
I think we will. That's great.
So, Kristin, you were past president of NCRA just 1 year ago, right? You were terming out?
I just finished immediate past president.
Correct.
So I am off the NCRA board as a few minutes ago, I would say, or an hour ago.
Yes. We won't let you rejoice too much in that. But I know you served a long time and you deserve a break. But I'd love to talk about leadership because you've led and been a leader on both the state level and the national level. But let's talk about you first. So what kind of court reporting do you do?
I've done a little bit of both freelance and official, but mostly official. So my journey in that has a lot to do with NCRA, actually. So when I started school, it was in the 90s, way back when, and our profession was flourishing, but I started school in Illinois, and I finished there, and I started working there as an official. My dad always he was a tax accountant, thought it was a great career to go into, and I needed a job with benefits is what his thought was, as being married to a nurse, so we did that. He thought that was important. And anyways, I went to court reporting school and got out. My dream was I'm going to be a freelance court reporter in downtown Chicago. That's what I thought. And I got done and ended up actually becoming an official first. And it wasn't as glamorous as you would think in the winters of Chicago, trying to put boots in and go do your internship and stuff. So I ended up being an official, started out there, and basically got fed to the wolves. And I don't mean it in a bad way. Being a Gen Xer, I think we can take the bull by the horns, so to speak, and you just kind of sink or swim. Yeah. And I got thrown in and could take anything, and that became a very beneficial thing. I decided I wanted to move to Kansas, where my sister was at. I loved Chicago, but I didn't like the commuting in the big city there. And so I thought Kansas City would be great. And so I ended up being an official there and enjoyed that. And then just wanted to try something different, a different challenge. And I ended up freelancing, and that made me an even better reporter. When you're out freelancing, everything types up, unlike in court. And so did a little freelancing there, and then decided I wanted to become a federal official reporter. It was kind of always one of my dreams to do that. And I ended up taking a position down in San Antonio, Texas. And I moved down there, and just the whole journey of all of this is I found my jobs and all those connections through NCRA. We used to call it Job Bank Friday. And so that's how I found my opening when I went to Kansas initially. So ended up there, and that's also how I found my federal job. And while in Texas, I often tell everyone I met a force of nature named Mary Berry. She's a past president of the Texas Court Reporters Association, great friend of mine, and met wonderful community of court reporters there, and ended up, after I completed that, I ended up switching to the state system, and that's where I've been. I worked in San Antonio, and now I'm in Denton, so kind of a long roundabout way, but all along that journey, I served in state leadership in Kansas. That's where I did several years there in the mid-2000s to about 2012. Right before I moved to Texas, I had finished up my service doing that. And then I was very involved in NCRA, the National Congress State Associations. And you might not even know that because it was kind of before your time. So I served on NCRA governing committee for about 7 years and was a state delegate a couple years before that. So it's been a long journey. But then I knew reporters, and that's how I found my job down in Texas, and hopefully going to see it out there till the end. So enjoy it. But it's been a wonderful career, and just having NCRA and the support of all the connections we make through our industry is just unbelievable.
That's so important.
Yes.
Yeah. So I love that you have a perspective of both freelance and official, even though most of your years have been an official, because that makes you a better reporter, like you said, right?
Oh, yes.
Because you have perspective and just experiences that you wouldn't normally have. So that's
Right.
great. Now, what have you learned in your leadership? I mean, what made you want to be a leader at all, whether it be state or national level?
Yeah.
I mean, you've talked about the networking. Obviously, that's one of the side benefits. But apart from that,
Yeah. Well, it's 21 years ago now. I just moved to Kansas, and right after I moved there, within about 5 months, my father passed away suddenly, and it's always, it always hits hard, but it's been a long time. You know how you move forward, but he was very involved in our church. He was very involved in our township, running our township and stuff, and it was always about a life of service and giving back. And something you'll hear Dave Winhold say a lot is about leaving something better than you found it.
yeah.
And respected him a lot. He didn't speak a lot, but when he did, people would listen. So it's always trying to keep that and trying to have a servant heart to give back. And so after I moved to Kansas, I'd been a reporter about 5 years. And I had a great friend, colleague, mentor I worked with. Her name is Sharon Cahill, where I worked there. And you were at a crossroads. I thought, do I need to move home and help my mother? Am I staying here in Kansas City? And I was going to stay there. And she thought, why don't you get involved with the state association? And I thought, oh, okay, I'll do that. I'll just get on.
No
the
big
state.
deal.
Yeah, we all know how that starts.
It's a gateway drug. Don't let him fool you.
Yes, exactly. So I started that and pretty much got shoved right into an officer position as the secretary treasurer and went up the chairs just because we all know how we really are always trying to find volunteers to help out in our state level all the time. And so that's how it started. And so just wanting to give back and have a purpose. And so I thought I would do that. And you found out along the way you have talents and strengths and you're passionate about something. It isn't really work. You are so motivated to be a part of something bigger than you. So that's how it kind of started there.
That's so
and
cool.
They sent me off to leadership training and boot camp and
On the national level.
on the national level. And that's where you started meeting people that you come to these conferences and you still see them 20 years later. They're still here. And so that's how it began. And so I got very involved in NCRA, and it was so wonderful to be a part of what's going on in other states, because what you may be experiencing may be going on somewhere else. And so having that networking to be able to collaborate and not reinvent the wheel about certain things.
And can I pause just to
Yes.
explain what NCRA is?
Yes.
So it's our National Congress of State Associations. And why this is important is they take 2 delegates basically from each state. And so from our DRA or from the Court Reporters Association, and we all get together. So at the National Convention, we have a meeting, 3 hours or more, and we share ideas, right? And we collaborate. What's working in California, or what have you experienced in Kansas? And it's amazing to me how similar all the issues are, usually very similar. And I particularly love it because in California, we're usually the first one to experience something, and it's going to come nationally after that, kind of like our AB 5 law. And then they tried to get the PRO Act. Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
Luckily that didn't get anywhere. But anyway, it is neat to be able to share our experiences with other state associations and just help other states, because we're all in this together. So, and that's how you, that was one of your starting points, you said.
Yes.
I interrupted.
No, you were perfect. It's very important to know what it is, because we should be supportive of our state affiliates going up there. Some of them are not public speakers and they don't want to do that type of thing. And then you have to go up and speak to the lawmakers in Washington. And once you have that training and you do that, it's so wonderful. It will benefit you all across your life in different avenues as well. So it's a great tool to have, and you go there and you learn so much. We have Sonar, which is State of the Nation's Activities Report, where we keep everything, letting them know what's going on in states. And another tool that you don't see as much from NCRA as much as we did back then. Everybody's online. We have listservs, which have been around for a long time. But for example, how did the RPR get passed in legs. It used to be that you had to pass it all in one setting. And that started in NCRA. So great ideas come up from NCRA, from state leaders, and that's where NCRA often finds its future leadership as well. So it's a good thing.
I'm aware.
Yeah.
I've felt some leaning in that direction.
Yes.
Now,
Great.
you mentioned being nervous to speak, and let me ask you a question. Did you feel like a leader before you served?
No, I think it's good as you go along the way, once you're going to step up into those officer roles, to understand to begin with the end in mind. What do we want to accomplish on behalf of the association, on behalf of the profession? Those are very important things. But it happens organically, I would say, because you're really trying to work in the best interest of the association. And listen, I don't really take my own checkbook down to the penny, when I get it. But when I took my job on as a secretary treasurer in Kansas, I had 1 penny error, and I was going to find that error no matter what. And so it's just, you find out skill sets that you didn't know you had. But the public speaking part, it just comes along with what your knowledge base is, and what you're passionate about, and how you can make a difference. And so that's important. Even though when you get on a board, you often speak with one voice. You still have an opinion at the table, though.
Right. Yeah. Well, I asked that because so many people, they might be passionate and they might have skill sets. Everybody has skill sets to bring, but they're like, well, I'm not a leader. I'll just sit back and let somebody else do it. And I did not feel like a leader. And people were shoving me into this role a bit out of need, basically, but maybe they saw something in me. But what's interesting is you feel like an imposter so much. Like, wait, why am I the one? Why am I, and so, but you really grow into it. It is fascinating. So by agreeing, and this is kind of like with work for any just freelance reporters or whoever, right? You're thrown to the wolves. You have to figure it out, and you grow in the process. And it's kind of a beautiful journey. But it's a little uncomfortable at first. And so I would encourage anybody who's listening, who's even has an inkling of wanting to serve, maybe just get on a committee, right?
I agree totally. It's if you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing, I think. So, right, it's a challenge. And if you want to keep challenging yourself and your capabilities to be a better writer in your profession, all of that stuff. And being a better leader is always challenging too. The higher you get up, the more you understand that you have to listen more than you're speaking. Even though you do want to offer guidance, you're trying to build other people up. And so you will find your voice. It's just good to have a passion about where you want to go and what you want to accomplish. And I don't know, I kind of already said that a little bit already, but it's just always knowing that you can have symbolisms along the way. I mean, I'm kind of going back to my own presidency, and what kind of legacy are you trying to leave? I'm mentioning Dave again about leaving. It's just come up kind of a lot at the end of my board service here about leaving something better than you found it. And some days you will feel that, and some days you won't. And some days are really hard, and some days are really good, and you have little victories and a lot of challenges along the way. But knowing that it's kind of the whole, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? And we see a lot of things on social media, and that can be very questionable, and they don't fall into that category. I know I started this journey 20 years ago, so I'm a lot older now. And you look at
wisdom.
Things, you look at it, and I'm not on social media a lot, and I don't post a lot. A lot of my life is private, and it's just because it is. I think we grow as people, and it's not that I don't want to. I just don't want all of my life out there on social media. And part of that's just because of what we do for a living. I think too, just. I have family and stuff, and I like to keep some of that private. Some of them are not on social media. I didn't mean to go down that whole road, but it's so you just your values kind of change along the way. But trying to offer people some kind of a vision of where they can see their life and their profession going for them. And so we're always trying to be better, I think, all the time. And some days it doesn't feel like it, and some days it does. So,
Right.
yeah.
Well, I can speak to your legacy. I only know a limited amount, but you were a great president, and I think you're so well respected, and we really appreciated your service. What, from your perspective, what was your proudest moment, or what were some victories that you look back on and you're excited about that you got accomplished, or that as a team, not necessarily you as an individual?
Yeah, no, it was a team, and it's I had great leaders to follow from. So I will often call them the trifecta, and you had Sue Terry and Max Curry and Christine Phipps. And Max and Christine were my classmates, and we were only 3 classmates in recent times, in several decades or something like that, that all ascended to being president, although they left me long ago, left me behind. But you try to take traits of what other individuals and go, I like that, and I'm going to implement that because I think that's a great quality. And so all of them had great things to take away. But when I look back, there's so much. We've done great things with creating A to Z and promoting the profession and promoting the profession. So the big thing when I was coming in was, what are we doing to protect it? And the constant artificial intelligence and automatic speech recognition, AI and ASR, are out there. And we had some things in the works, and we got the white paper approved. NCRA put out the white paper that the former NCRA Strong Committee works so very hard on. And it was a wonderful tool that gave us a seat at the table. I've had a lot of conversations with news outlets about that. And it was very, very important for us to have an opinion and be a part of the discussion as this goes forward. And so then our boot camp 2 years ago was the first time it was on the AI bill. And they're still working on it now, as you may or may not know. That'll be updated over this convention at their NCRA annual meeting. But that was, if anything else, it was having people go, when they think about how wonderful AI is, and you're making the record, because it's if you do not have the human element there is no accountability and there's no traceability. And I can go into all of that, but there's so many questions and that we don't have the answers to, and so we need guardrails in place. So if you're going to hold, and you can speak to this because you're in California and I'm in Texas, and I report to my licensing board, and if I'm doing something inappropriate, they can go to them. Who holds AI accountable, and who's typing that up? And just what we do, we take down some of the most sensitive information out there, and part of our ethical obligation is keeping stuff confidential.
Right.
So, and how many times, this is an official thing, you hear things in the court, well, didn't that happen in open court? Well, yes, but have you ever heard of an adoption getting sealed after the fact? Things get sealed. So, I mean, things happen, and if people ask you for a record and it involved a minor, you think, okay, you want that, you go get, you're going to need a judge's permission for that. So there's so many things that we do outside of making the record that are so important to protecting it, that I think it's you cannot erase that human element when you're doing that. So I guess that's the big passion I might have had during my presidency.
Yeah.
So, and the other part of that would just be a lot of times trying to be transparent and always keeping your board informed about what's going on. My biggest fear was having board members find out things happening at NCRA via a JCR Weekly or in the magazine or something getting posted. Did you see this? It's like, I want to keep the board informed. You want them to have buy-in and be a part of the discussion so they're prepared, because every board member's success is NCRA's success. And so you want them all educated, and you have directors, and you're trying to build them up to be future leaders. And so I think those were important aspects, is having transparency and making sure people are heard. I think people just want to be heard. And I'm talking a lot right now. So
I talk way too much on this.
No. But anyhow,
I appreciate, well, obviously your passion it comes through. So let's pivot just a little bit.
Yes.
You had mentioned the A to Z program. it was already in place when you became president, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, but a lot has been done since then to move it forward and support it and all of that. This is a big deal to stave off AI and our digital threats, is to make sure we have ranks coming up, right? And enough reporters. So I know that social media, when some of our social media like gurus who have started the trend and TikTok videos and all of that.
Yeah.
I was like, why are we doing that? That's such a waste. And I had no idea about the young people, and this is where they get their information and all that. And so it's interesting because that has become a huge drawing point to get people interested in our profession. And it shows that we're relevant, and it shows that we're not just an old lady with a bun and with an old paper machine in the corner, that as sometimes is portrayed.
Yeah.
But what kinds of things does NCRA do to support, aside from the A to Z program? I think that's the most widely known. I know the NCRF, which is the fundraising foundation. I'm going to be going to the luncheon and learning more about it because I've not been an angel, but we're planning to join. But what kinds of things does NCRA do to support students, or to like scholarships? I know that's a piece of it.
Yeah. Well, we have numerous scholarships now. It's incredible. The foundation has a lot of scholarships. There's the Carl Cicito Scholarship. The Stenograph has actually a scholarship as well. The Christine Phipps Foundation, she sponsors 10 students to travel to convention. And I don't want to, I'm missing some because I don't have a list in front of me, but go to
Boulay does some, right?
Well, that is
or is that a different?
It's the autism, or autism, excuse me, different life. Yeah. Altruism. Yes, altruism award. Yes, his family took over sponsoring that. And so, yes, he will be giving that award to someone. But the scholarships, there's a case scholarship that
Case Catalyst?
No, it's now you're going to put me on the spot.
Oh, sorry.
Student education, the Council on Academic of School. I'm going to say that wrong.
But it's an acronym.
It's an acronym for NCRA, and I'm having a brain freeze on what it is right now. But it's it's the teachers for the curriculum for NCRA. I'm going to be in big trouble for that since I have my CRI.
Maybe we can cut that part.
Yeah. So there's a case scholarship, and there's anyhow. If I had a list, I could pull it up and tell you. But so there's but outside of A to Z, there's a Career Launcher. Career Launcher is also a wonderful tool to prepare new reporters, freelancers for sure, to go out in those deposition settings. Because when you're a freelancer, you're heading out and you don't have a judge that's running the courtroom. You have to...
Yeah, you have to know your rules.
Yes.
And, we have a seminar with DRA, we call it the GAP seminar. And so
great.
we bridge the gap. There's a big manual that I've been studying actually to upgrade it to reflect new laws. But so I'm excited to learn more about Career Launcher because I have not dug into it so much on the national level.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of effort put into that. And so, and kind of a slow, I don't want to say rollout, but it's been... the schools have picked it up, and so the other part NCRA does is we do have our NCRA approved schools, and so those are very important to make sure everybody gets a quality education. Not that there are great other programs out there as well. I wouldn't say that, but we do have that, so that's what NCRA does as well. Going into the A to Z a little bit is. That came during my tenure on the board is when it was created, and Max Curry was very passionate about that. He has a CRI background. He was an instructor as well. But then along the way, COVID happened. And so that's when a pivot happened because in being from Texas, San Antonio had one of the best in-person A to Z programs you could imagine. You just had all these machines, and then COVID happened, of course. But what they did is you'd have your jury panel that would come in, hundreds of people in there, and they would say, and we don't have enough court reporters. You should take this pamphlet and learn about this A to Z, and
that's right.
Go tell your niece or go tell your daughter or your nephew, whoever it is, and tell them about court reporting. It's the greatest profession you'd ever hear about. So you have this, people are sitting around waiting to get called upstairs, and they take a look at it. So it was a great opportunity. We had great participation in that, and and enrollment for that after that. And so, but then COVID happened, and now we have an asynchronous and synchronous program of both. Some where, of course, you do it on your own online, and then they'll have one where they actually meet. But that's where. So, what is NCRA doing? They offer that, and during my presidency, they had a presidency party which kicked it off, and then Max carried it on, was raising money for the search engine optimization for the landing page of the Discovered Steno A to Z program.
Yes.
And so they were passionate about that, and that was another thing. So we kind of, the whole theme that year was not only promote but protect. So we did promote as well, and there were lots of results from that were very beneficial for us, and I think you need to continue it on. But one problem we have is getting enough volunteers now to do the A to Z. Like, it's meeting the demand. And so what can NCRA do? We only can do as much as our volunteers that help. And so I think maybe it was brought up that maybe having people teach 1 week at a time of the A to Z program will be a better benefit for everyone. So A to Z is still very important. And that came from a lot of years of research, even before my time on the board, saying, how are we going to get people into this profession and see if they even have an interest in it? And it was dipping your toes into the A to Z program. So it is very important. And as I mentioned, the career launcher is important. So in all of our tools and webinars that we have on are great resources for all of our members for continuing education. You can't underestimate how important that is.
Well, I'm so glad we still have a strong association and have these conventions, and we get our shot in the arm and get to see each other and share brief tips and whatever. Yeah, it's hugely important. But I'm glad you mentioned the volunteering, because it really is such an easy way. It's not too time intensive, right? You can either do the full 6 weeks, 6 different classes on your own, or individually. Yeah. We've been talking, our DRA, we've been talking about doing one again. It's been many, many, many years. And we just, we're strapped too for volunteers. So I will make that a push, because I think that's hugely important, because I send people to A to Z all the time. We go to career fairs. I have people I talk to through interest through my videos and things. And so, it's hugely important. So I'm glad you reminded me of this need. I could probably do that now that I'm past president. Have a little more time, right?
Exactly.
All right. So we mentioned AI being a threat, obviously, and that's what everyone's talking about. In California, we've mentioned this on previous podcasts and future ones, but the thing that keeps our profession strong and viable and relevant, and what distinguishes us from those digital threats is basically our lobbying and our legislative efforts. We have a strong lobbyist. We have a strong board. And it's so important, because if we don't recognize them, you were talking off the record when we were chatting about having a strong legislative team, right? We have licensure, which not every state does, and that's a huge piece. I know Texas does. But what's keeping us strong is our associations that go to bat for our reporters, right? So we have 2 state associations, which is not always common. I know Texas does as well. But if we didn't have volunteers, we've talked about this, we would not be able to exist. And on a national level, it's equally important, right? So lobbying for our industry, it sounds daunting and it sounds so overwhelming to someone who's like, I'm a court reporter, I'm not a lobbyist, But going to that legislative boot camp is fun and super educational. I fell apart, if you'll recall. We do this test at the very end, the last day, and we have to show our skills. And I just went and just fell apart. But as a result, I learned. And 2 weeks later, I was lobbying in Sacramento and nailed it. So that was good because of the boot camp. But anyway, I see the importance now when I didn't always. When I was a newer reporter, I didn't get involved. I didn't even join my associations for years because I didn't see the benefit. So what are the benefits of joining NCRA, first of all, and what's in it for me as an independent reporter, and why is it so important?
Okay,
it's a big question. Sorry.
It is, and it kind of starts with the whole journey all over again. But we are the subject matter experts in what we do. So when you take that and you use it with the legislative efforts, it is a great tool to have. And like you said, you've been to boot camp and you have the training, so you are equipped. It's nerve-wracking, believe me. I have been a state leader. You can ask Doug Friend about a time I had to go on a visit with him, and I was sitting there and they were asking me something about a freelancer, and I just looked over at him and he took right over. He was like the president or incoming president at the time. So we're all there to support us. We don't go on these visits by ourselves. It can seem overwhelming at the time, but it's just because you care so much.
Right.
So why is it important to be a member? Because we want to have a seat at the table when decisions are being made out in the industry about the record making process. And who knows, like I've mentioned just a few moments ago, who is more knowledgeable about that than us? I mean, we live it every day, and there's so many more components to what we do as reporters than merely just taking a record down. That's important. And where do you learn your ethical obligations? Yes, you're going to have some requirements in your state, and yes, you should be a member of your state association because we have power in numbers, and that's how your voice is heard.
Exactly.
But when you start as a student and you have that sense of belonging and being a part of something bigger than you are, and you come here and I'm trying to go back, it's been a long time ago, and be that student in school, and when you get discouraged and it's hard, come and see the speed contest. I mean, these people will inspire you to be better every day. It's just so uplifting to come to this conference. And like you said, you get the little shot of, hey, this is great, and I'm ready to go back. Because, I mean, life is hard, and we have lots of things coming at us outside of our profession that can bring us down. So having that association there, to be there, there's so many benefits at the association. So, I mean, and these may seem trivial. Sometimes I would go on rep assignments, and you say, oh, what is, NCRA, what are they offering for me? Well, for example, it seems trivial, but we also offer these benefits where if you're going to rent a car, if you're going to send flowers, you get these discounts back. And I mean, one time I went to rent a car, and I saved enough on that on a rep assignment when I had to, we'll leave the state name out, but it was a remote area. And I got there and I thought, I can't take an Uber wherever I'm going. So if I do, I won't be able to get back. So, so those are kind of trivial things, but those are benefits. And having those tools to make you a better reporter, get your certifications. Those all mean something on a state and national level when you go to get a job. Yeah. So and I think the core of what we do is our certifications. Those are very important, and we all know that they mean something, and that means we can provide a service that other methodology can't provide. So that is important. And we have colleagues that also, hold us accountable to what we're doing. So it's good to have that. And we brainstorm, and we already kind of talked about NCRA and all of that stuff. So when you bring everyone together and you collaborate, you just strengthen numbers. So it's very important to support your association, or we're not going to have any relevance in the future.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up, because when there's a Supreme Court case going on in California where they're trying to, basically a lot of folks who represent indigent litigants or self-represented people or whatever. And because court reporting has gotten quite expensive, especially when things have gone to a freelance market and in court, and the courts don't provide reporters. And so I feel for them. So they're basically trying to replace us with electronic recording. And so there's this Supreme Court case where they're forcing digital and electronic recording in courts. And so as we were trying to combat that, and someone asked me to write a declaration on behalf of freelancers. So, I mean, I didn't have to write it word for word, which is nice. This is why we pay attorneys. But he asked me in our interview, in order to shape the verbiage, he said, well, how many members do you have in your association? Because if it's a big number, we're going to highlight that. And I told him, and he goes, oh, never mind. That's not going to help you. And I thought, oh my goodness, there's strength in numbers. Right. And we put out this silly video, but it's so true. Isaiah, my partner, he put it out, and it's called Size Matters. And it we joke about that, but it does in legislative efforts. It really matters. So even if you're a brand new reporter or you have never joined before, just those membership dollars really, really help to bolster our membership numbers and show that we have a big presence, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's huge. So even if you don't take advantage and come to every convention and whatnot, I mean, you really should because there's all those additional benefits. But just being on the roll really, really helps. And we have learned that kind of the hard way. And so I like to remind folks of that.
Well, yeah, and just to kind of bring it full circle back from all the years that went into the AI research under the Strong Committee that worked under the NCRA board, that all their research came and brought about that white paper. And that meant we had a seat at the table, and people will quote that out there. And like I told you, I did numerous interviews. And so if you want to be able to have intelligent conversations, you have to bring together the minds that can create those things. And where did that happen? It happened at NCRA. That was the platform. And that's where the platform of great ideas come up from. As we already kind of spoke about, we come together, and those member dollars are very important because it's not about a magazine. There's so much more than a magazine. People like to kid about, I'm not paying $300 for a magazine. No, you're not. You're getting a whole lot more.
But often they don't see what's going on behind the scenes because some of it can be spoken about, some can't. They didn't see the white paper until the final product came out.
Right.
So there's so much going on behind the scenes, and I never realized that until I was in leadership on a state level. That wow, and it's fun to have that seat at the table, but. Yeah, I think, and especially if they're not plugging in, which they don't have to come to every convention, but then you see, like we were just in a business meeting this morning and I got to hear the budget report and I'm going, oh, it does cost money to run a whole election. It does cost money to all these programs and benefits. So yeah, we need to remind, I have never been great about it. And I think associations generally are not great about touting the great things we're doing for people because it's just, you assume they know.
Right.
Because you're doing it and don't they see, but they're not at the board meetings and they're not at the, behind the scenes and on a Saturday night when you're hustling to get out emails or whatever. So
exactly.
It's so important, all these things that, so anyway, our numbers matter, right? And
they do.
Yeah. And one benefit, just a side note, you were joking about the rental cars, but slightly more important than that are all the insurance programs that we can't offer at a state level because we don't have the numbers.
Right.
But as a national member, you can get the E&O insurance for very inexpensive. Your equipment equipment insurance.
Exactly.
I mean, I haven't done that in a long time, but I assume it's still offered.
Yes, they still offer
and
that.
And then I feel like there's a third. Was it disability?
Yes, they have that too. You can get that through there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So those are important things if you're on your own as a freelancer,
And a little bit like recently too, anytime there's a national disaster like the fires or the floods that just happened in Texas, if you have been displaced by anything that happens, the foundation and NCRA are there to help you. And in tornadoes, we've had that before. So just national disaster, just being there to lift each other up in a time of need is another benefit. So it's,
and I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's a big community, and and I'm sure we're sitting here trying to think, oh, what else? And we could keep going on and on and on. And there is a lot, and you don't want to underestimate that human quality of being there for when somebody needs it. So,
yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Taking time out.
It's been my pleasure.
I feel honored to have you. So thank you all for listening, and I hope you'll like and subscribe our podcast, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.